Like I think about a lot of Tagalog words or words like hiya, utang ng loob, like gratitude, or I think the mentality of like bahala na is really like relevant to me and my family, because I think a lot of the times like when I would tell my mom or my dad or my parents in general like how I was feeling or something that I was experiencing that's very traumatic to me, a lot of the times like no, like bahala na, like just let it be. I found myself struggling with being able to destigmatize myself from those things. Even today, it's still a struggle, because I think the concept of like what you mentioned, like just like the generational like trauma that travels, right?
I had some eating disorders. I was hospitalized several times, and my therapist had my mother and father come in and talk to them about like how serious this was. And I just so disappointed because they don't get it. They don't get it. All my dad said, which he usually doesn't say anything, he said, well, she's not getting fat. And that just really disappointed me, hurt me. Having a professional come in, be at my side, yes, they'll get rejected.
Thank you for sharing that. Because I too in high school had an eating disorder, and like when my parents found out about it, because I was also like I had experienced a lot of depression. When I would talk to my parents about it, or especially my mom, or confide in my mom would be like, oh, you're just thinking that way, not understanding like that it's an illness or like a disease, like that it's literally like, oh, you're just surrounding yourself with negative things, you're just thinking that way. Like I could shake myself out of it.
Right.
I think that was like one of the things that really affected like my perspectives early on in mental health.
Just thinking, what everyone's sharing too about the generational shame, right? Of trying not to be that or what's coming about. And I think for me specifically, there's a piece too of growing up in the United States most of my life as a cisgender man, and what is trapped in what's normally or in the field called like the man box. So suppressing the expectations of what it means to be a man, what society says to be a man. Some of the things about that is the only emotion we can show is anger, right? Anything else outside of that is girly or perceived as feminine, which is bad based on what society says and deems. There's pieces to that where I'm not immune to, right? Growing up as a cisgender man in the United States, there's pressures. So one of them being the first in my family to get a degree, to like moving out, to all these things where in times where I did face depression, similarly, like it's mostly me that was inhibiting. Like I don't want to be shamed. Like I don't want to have that shame myself of being out because of that man box that confines many men. Back to generational trauma, that even depression, the more and more I know, it's in our DNA. It goes through my siblings, my parent, all of that. So, and then it's just ironic to think of that. If I was ashamed of that, but if I opened up about that we actually share that. So,
and like open up to the potential for healing almost in the family.
The shame component keeps coming up, and it makes me think about my experience and how I had an aunt that had died by suicide. And it's interesting. You would think that would foster discussion, or at least more communication in the family, but just with the whole shame, it really just it even suppressed things more. So even when I would try and talk about trauma with my family, it would always just kind of be this more of a discussion about mental illness isn't real, or so it's really hard to even get to the conversation because all these different conceptions of what illness is, and that never really was something my family could agree on. And so then we couldn't really agree on what is suicide, why does that happen, and so we're still trying to get there. Yeah, that really led to me studying psychology and learning more just about Filipinx experiences with suicide, suicidal thoughts, and just really trying to understand it and bring my family closer to that. And so hopefully, it'll foster more of a conversation about trauma, but it's a long process.
I have an aunt who is a psychiatrist, and I remember, oh my goodness, like the siblings all getting together after my grandmother died, and basically like teasing her for not being a real doctor. It was awful. It was awful. And this is like adult me watching my adult role models, basically. So when I opened up to them about the trauma that I experienced, it was something that we all knew we had to like be very open about with our family. But there's still this like, well, maybe religion can fix it. So I had relatives texting me like religious texts, and I'm like, whoa, we're not the right person at all. And I understood that they had to deal with the situation in their own way. But for the most of the family, it has been a lot of like under the rug sweeping, or just pretending like, oh well, it's fine now because we like did the rosary several times and we're fine.